So the iPhone 16 and iPhone 16 Pro have just been announced by Apple, and with it come a whole host of camera-specific changes, so of course we have to break it down. A little bit of a different setup. I'm actually away in the Netherlands right now, but the tech wheel keeps on turning, so of course we're going to talk about this. The lineup is pretty much the same as last year. By that I mean we have the iPhone 16, iPhone 16 Plus, the iPhone 16 Pro, and the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and there are some significant camera changes across all of those devices, so let's break them down. Let's kick off with the iPhone 16 and iPhone 16 Plus. There's two really significant changes on this device. First of all is the new 48 megapixel fusion camera. So the main lens is basically getting the lens that was previously seen on the iPhone 15 Pro, that 48 megapixel sensor. I don't know if this is a direct port of that particular lens, but it is obviously a really good thing that we're seeing a sensor size increase on that main lens. So you're going to be able to take much better photos than you previously would have got with the iPhone 15. They're calling this a fusion camera. This is their new branding for the 48 megapixel readout that pixel bins down to a 24 megapixel image. The reason that they're doing this is it essentially allows Apple to market two lenses within one lens. So what they're doing is, and there is no real difference to what Apple is doing here than a lot of other Android phones are doing, they have a high megapixel sensor and they're using the kind of center of that center to allow a 2x digital crop with a ton of computational things happening to actually get a 2x really nice image out of that center of those pixels. My issue with this is they are really marketing this as essentially like a 48 millimeter lens. That doesn't sit great with me because there are a lot of significant differences between using a 24 millimeter lens and a 48 millimeter lens. Obviously, as a photographer, we normally have access to a 50 millimeter lens, which is obviously very similar to 48 millimeter, and that image just looks significantly different to a 24 millimeter image. There's a significant difference in people's facial structure, compression of image, the amount of shallow depth of field you can get on the background. On one of my professional cameras, I could take a 24 millimeter image, crop in 2 times. That's all of a sudden not a 48 millimeter photo. But, at the same time, it is great you, of course, obviously have a standard 1x mode, and you can easily crop that to a 2x. For most people, that's going to be absolutely fine. There's also a new ultra-wide camera, which Apple are saying is 2.6 times more efficient in light capture, more light, aka hopefully better images. This is macro photography enabled as well, so that's really cool. Just gives more options for iPhone 16 photographers. You also get access to the action button on the iPhone 16 now, so I can honestly tell you the amount of times I've used the action button on my iPhone 15 Pro. I feel like I can probably count it on literally one hand. But if you do care about that, don't get me wrong, some people will have really good uses for this. It's just never really fit well into my workflow, but that is now an option available on the standard iPhone 16. There was a significant change this year though is something called the camera control button. And this is across both the iPhone 16 line and the iPhone 16 Pro line. So again, that's a really good win for the iPhone 16 line. You're getting access to some of these features that are previously reserved for the Pro line for a smaller reduced cost. But the camera control button is a new button on the side of the device, which essentially is mimicking a proper DSLR camera shutter with significantly improved software performance. So first of all, using Apple's haptic engine, it will essentially give you a shutter-like feeling, which is a really good change for iPhone photography. Me personally, I actually always prefer shooting with a proper camera because you just get far more control. It feels far more tactile. So hopefully this is a change in that direction. But the really cool stuff is you actually get access to change a ton of settings using just this button. So it is pressure sensitive, so you can do things like open the camera button straight away, half press to focus, that type of thing. And you can do things like change depth of your images, change exposure, all essentially just from this camera control button. So that is a really significant change and probably will drastically change the way that people actually interact with their iPhone camera app. There are some changes planned later in the year that are going to allow this to expand in functionality, be able to actually half press to lock focus and exposure controls, that type of thing. Again, this would be closer to the way a more professional camera system works. I feel like a lot of people are actually not going to be super buzzed about these changes, but for someone who takes a lot of photos with their iPhone and consider myself like an iPhone photographer, these are really exciting changes. The camera control actually also ties into the new visual intelligence tool. Obviously packed with AI, there's a ton of AI inclusions. I'm not going to really talk about Apple Intelligence too much in this video, but one change that is camera related is the inclusion of something called visual intelligence. This essentially uses that camera control button to basically take little snapshot images, basically directly search and kind of suggest things on your device that respond to that photo itself. You can just snap a photo using the capture button. I believe it doesn't like store it as a photo. So again, that's a kind of improved change. It's not going to clog up your device. It's just a direct visual way to actually deal with something you're seeing and get an AI-powered automatic response from Apple. Some of the changes actually seem pretty cool as well. Like you could be out and about, don't know what a dog breed is, take a quick photo. Like this is actually similar to other AI tools that we're seeing right now. For instance, the Meta AI that I've been testing on the Ray-Ban Meta sunglasses does this type of thing. But like I said, having access to this directly on your iPhone is a really cool change. Hey guys, a quick little note from a couple of days ago. Something very, very exciting just arrived. So this is a little package from Casetify. So obviously right now we're talking about the iPhone 16. I actually have with me the next best thing. This is the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Okay, it's actually not, it's of course a model, but it is going to be the perfect tool to show you what is in this box from Casetify. So first of all, there is this kind of carabiner clip. And I think that is going to be a central thing when we're talking about what's inside the contents of this case, but we will unclip this just to start with. So let's just go ahead. We're going to put this one to the side and you can see this is the brand new Ultra Bounce case from Casetify for the iPhone 16 line. So let's go ahead and actually apply it to the iPhone 16 Pro, since obviously it's pretty cool that we have a like pretty much exact spec replica iPhone 16 here. And you can see just how much protection this is going to give you. Most drops actually happen on an iPhone when they're dropped on a corner of a device. So the extra protection around the corners will basically ensure your phone is just insanely protected from drops in this thing. Let's actually take you through the box. So first of all, we've got this bounce carabiner. The way this works is this actually straps to the case itself. So we can run this through here and you can just see how powerful that is, like how much power that can actually withstand. One of my favorite is actually the wrist strap design. And sadly in London, we actually have to be really careful now of things like phone snatching. So this allows you to have an extra kind of thing of protection against that, which is great. They've sent a few of their other cases here, as you can see. So it's not just, of course, the Ultra Bounce case. This is obviously like almost like their headline case this year. This would personally probably be my personal pick, but it is still a Casetify case. You can get really cool designs printed as well. They've included an Apple Watch case in the same sort of style as the Ultra Bounce case. So you can basically always have consistent feel and aesthetic across your devices, which is sick. So if you're interested in checking out any of these cases, you can head over to casetify.com/TomRich, and it will actually supply you with a 15% discount off your Casetify order. Thank you so much to Casetify for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to the iPhone 16. So moving on from the iPhone 16 to the iPhone 16 Pro, I actually feel like most of the most significant changes are accessible on the iPhone 16, which again, as aforementioned, already a really good thing. But of course, there are some significant changes on the iPhone 16 Pro line. Most notably, and this will be really good news for anyone who likes a smaller Pro line phone like me, you actually get access to the 5x telephoto on this phone now. So previously that was reserved for the iPhone 15 Pro Max. On the iPhone 16 Pro, you will get a 5x optical telephoto zoom. It's the same as the previous generation for what I can tell. So it is a 12 megapixel shooter. You get a 48 megapixel fusion camera. This is an improved lens with better optics and better performance. Most notably on this lens, you're going to just actually receive better capture performance because now this device is powered by an A18 Pro chip. So things like sensor readout, shutter lag are all going to be dramatically improved on this device, which is really good news. You're going to be able to capture motion that much better and hopefully in lower light. The other really significant change in the lens lineup is there is now a 48 megapixel ultra wide lens. So there's definitely a bit of a pattern here. We're seeing the 48 megapixel go to the iPhone 16, but they're stuck with a 12 megapixel ultra wide. We're now seeing a 48 megapixel ultra wide, and I would probably bet, maybe not my house, but maybe a car, that next year we'll see a 48 megapixel on that telephoto lens on the Pro lineup. So it's definitely a relatively predictable release cycle now. But these are really cool changes. You actually get access to autofocus with that ultra wide lens as well now. And this is also macro enabled to be able to get macro shots using that ultra wide lens too. And there's showed actually some really cool samples. So hopefully this is going to be quite fun to test. There's also a change to the Photographic Styles system, which is actually really exciting. I've never really used the Photographic Styles on my iPhone. It's previously because they're a bit fixed and a little bit kind of rigid in their styling. You get this change, I believe, access on both the iPhone 16 Pro and the iPhone 16. But basically what this is going to be allowed to do is actually change the way your camera looks and works. So these aren't filters. This is actually essentially changing the color science of your device. A little bit like the way a Fuji film simulation might work. Now you're actually able to change the way that these work. So you're able to actually play around with the styling and the preference of that particular preset and maybe tweak it more to your liking. So this is a really sick change. and this is definitely just more control for photographers. For anyone that watched any of my iPhone 15 Pro coverage, you know that pretty much the thing which I was most excited about and most impressed with on that device was the Apple log recording. And that basically stands true. I think Apple is head and shoulders above any other smartphone video right now. The video they can shoot on the iPhone 15 Pro is absolutely incredible for its form factor and power. What's really cool is that now on the iPhone 16 Pro, we're going to be able to record in 4K 120 frames per second, which obviously expands the capabilities of what you're able to do. A lot of other phones have had this for a long time. This is not a new original feature, except what I'm excited about is pairing it with that Apple log, because essentially you get access now to a phone that is able to shoot 4K 120 in a flat picture profile that can be graded to essentially a professional spec. Apple consistently is almost like targeting the video features to relatively pro-level people, which is not necessarily almost like a tactic that I understand. They use a lot of demos where they're in very high production environments, which is always a little bit weird because most people just are not shooting video like this. Most people won't even know that Apple log actually exists on their phone. So this is a bit bizarre, but I am all here for it. This is an amazing tool. And due to that A18 Pro and the faster readouts from that main rear-facing sensor, that 120 has been enabled. You are only going to be able to capture this at the moment apparently from an external device. So for instance, you're going to have to shoot it directly to an external SSD, probably because the file sizes are so large, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And we've obviously seen apps like the Blackmagic camera app that will allow different situations and you to shoot in different codecs and that type of thing. So this one remains to be seen. We might be able to do it on device still. There's another change that is actually in line with this as well, and it's basically due to new improved microphones on the iPhone 16 Pro line. But there's a lot of software changes that are essentially going to allow you to capture audio in more targeted ways in post. So for instance, like the demo that they use is they're capturing, again, in a really weirdly high production environment, but they're capturing dialogue between two people, and you're essentially able to change the style of audio that you'd like. Maybe you want them to sound like they're in a studio. Again, this is almost like replicating some of the work that would be done by a more professional audio team or that type of thing, but it's all being done directly on your device. Again, you can always shoot audio and not use this feature, so this just seems like a really cool change. I don't know about you guys, I've been seeing a ton of kind of thoughts and feedback online from people who are saying these changes are a bit slow, a little bit lazy. I definitely do think that it's the type of thing where there just are not significant changes every year from an iPhone release. I mean, I guess they're not expecting people to buy a new phone every single year at this point. So obviously it's those incremental changes that continue to add up and might be a significant jump from you if you were moving from a device maybe 3 years ago. If I was going from last year's generation iPhone 15 Pro, I absolutely wouldn't be upgrading if I wasn't intending to actually cover it here on the channel. I think the camera in here is absolutely fantastic, so I didn't really kind of need any more from my phone, to be honest. Most notably, the biggest complaint I have with this device is the battery life. So hopefully we'll see, due to those A18 processors, the battery life being increased in performance. So jury's out on whether that will actually be significantly better, because this battery life absolutely sucks now. But hey ho, those are the most significant camera changes. I'd love to know your thoughts down below in the comments. I'll catch you guys next time.